Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Native Drums, to this edition. We were last month celebrating women. This month, we are just doing a little different twist. We're going to touch on a little bit of everything this month. So right now, today, we have with us Terry James. Terry is the founder and executive director of the Jamestown Foundation. Hello, Terry. Good evening.
Hello. Good to be here.
It's great. It's great to have you here with us. We've been knowing each other for a good little while now, right?
Oh, yes. Many years.
So we'll have a wonderful conversation because when we get together, we always have great talks. So it's a pleasure to be able to share it with our viewers with Native Drums. So let's talk about the Jamestown Foundation now. Tell them the purpose of Jamestown Foundation, the birth, how was this seed planted?
Okay. Well, back in 2007, the family decided to preserve the property other than get rid of it. So they took a vote, we did a survey, and they took a vote, and they appointed me as the one who should get that task done. Okay. So that's when the Jamestown Foundation was created. Actually, it was a cousin's husband who lived in Ohio. So when he suggested that we do a foundation and put me over it, everybody voted for it. Okay. And so that's when I became, started the Jamestown Foundation. I think we really got started in a few years later after that. There was a few hiccups along the way, but we finally got our footing and got it started. Became a nonprofit shortly after that, and where we are tax exempt.
Okay. All right. So each year we celebrate Jamestown, and it's about that time of year now?
Yes, July the 24th through the 26th. We do a Come Celebrate Jamestown, where we bring in artists and craftsmen and storytellers, Native Americans, the Tuscarora Indians come out and they do their thing. We have blacksmith, we have people who may look like Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln.
Reenactments and stuff?
Reenactments, Harriet Tubman, woodworkers from places like Colonial Williamsburg. There's Robert Watson Jr. He's been there for about 43 years. He's now retired, but he still comes to us. And he is an awesome storyteller, craftsman with the wood. He's awesome. We also have Mr. Jerome Bias. He can make furniture just better than Havertys, so to say. He's awesome in that kind of stuff. So we bring these people in to educate. Indigo Dye folks, the Buffalo Soldiers, 54th. We have all kind of people there just trying to educate the public on how life was during that time period of Reconstruction, not even slavery. Yeah. Definitely.
That's great. That's a great thing because we need to know our history. We need to know from whence we have come because that's a part of life's lessons. Yes. Looking at our genealogy, which is something else we want to talk about. Right. Knowing what is in our background. Like, for instance, in my background, music, of course. So my children are gifted with the gift of music. So my mama, my daddy, my grandma, everyone. So we need to know our background, and this is a good thing with Jamestown Foundation. Now, the award-winning Jamestown Foundation.
Emmy
so let's talk about that. Let's talk about that.
Well, 2023, I believe. WMBF News, Darion Henderson and George Henson, the videographer, came out to Jamestown, and George told me he kept the magazine that we're actually on the cover of South Carolina Live magazine.
Oh, wow.
The cover, and so we got a lot of great feedback from that. And so George Henson said he kept that magazine in his car for a whole year. And so finally he caught up with us, and they talked about coming out. So we did interviews with myself and Miss Helen Thompson, who is a descendant of the person who sold Irvin James the property, which is Eli McKisson and Mary Poston. But anyway, make a long story short, they came out and did an interview, and in that it's called Our Family's History, the Story of Jamestown. They entered it into 6 different categories through the news.
Right.
We won 4 of those 6.
Oh my goodness.
And Edward R. Moore Award, Region 8. And I think it incorporated North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, Tennessee, and Kentucky, as we won in our category in that. And that was exciting. And then we were entered into the Black Journalists Association, entered into the Emmy, the Southeastern Emmy Award, and we went to Atlanta for that one. And when they announced that, they said, and the category, the category is, and they call it a Nostalgia Award, and they said there are three persons nominated. And when they said, and the winner is, and they said the Story of Jamestown, I was like, yes! It was so exciting because he had about 500 to 600 people in the room.
Okay.
It was something to behold. I mean, really, it gave me so much energy and enthusiasm to all this hard work finally paid off. And so, a lot of times you go out in the community, people will say, hey, man, I really appreciate what you're doing, hanging on to your family's property. And I know it's not easy because I talk to folks in the Low Country, and I've gotten messages from folks from Ohio, have done interviews with people from California, Chicago, Indiana. I mean, they constantly want to know about Jamestown. People are interested in Jamestown. And a few years ago, it's probably about 12 or so years ago, a young lady was from Indiana, so I got to do that. She was passing through Florence, and she was in a motel when she saw the paper. She told her husband, I got to go to this place. And we had it that weekend, so she came out, we talked, and so she interviewed me, she later on interviewed me. So a lot of people are excited about Jamestown. The history of Jamestown is phenomenal. Irvin James and his wife, Nora James, back in the 1870s, Irvin decided, I don't want to be a tenant farmer or sharecropper. I want my own property.
Okay.
So he collaborated with Eli McKissick and Mary Poston. And the story my grandfather told me, Reverend Tony James said to me, he said he was told from his father that when Irvin purchased the property, Eli McKissick would run out of town. They threatened his life, so he went to Augusta. I believe that's what they told me. He went to Augusta for a while, and then he was a Methodist preacher. But the unique part about that was I looked at when they signed the agreement that Irvin's ex was there. It said Irvin X, and I was like, wow. That's the only time the X meant so much. Very important to me.
Right.
But also, Eli McKissick signed with an X. So he couldn't read or write as well. So I was like, wow. But anyway, and so they did that. But the thing was, Irvin purchased that 109 acres for $700. Excuse me, for $700.
My goodness.
And he put $400 down to begin with. And I'm like, where did Irvin get $400 from? I talked with people the historians that I know, USC and different places, Clemson, State, and all said that he was more than just a farmer. He had other skills that he probably rented him out. I'm not sure what he had to have that kind of money to purchase property single-handedly. And I looked at some of his labor contracts, just one that I found. Excuse me. One that I found, it was 1866. It was with William T. Wilson, who was a former slave owner. The labor contract read, Irvin James colored and family. But William T. Wilson also had another labor contract, and he had about 9 or 12 names on that one. But Irvin had a different contract. I was like, wow. But I think he did wheat, corn, some other things he did. I can't remember everything right now. But he got 1/3 of one, he got a half of one, and 3/4 of the other crops when he got to harvest crop. And the agreement was William T. Wilson would supply him with 2 old mules, and that's what they wrote, old mules that he had, and a few farm equipment. That's all he had to have. But apparently, but the unique part was, well, I'll say unique, but William T. Wilson, about 7 or 8 months into the contract, or maybe 6 months, he passed away. And he died intestate without a will. So he had to go to court, and the overseer had to turn it over to his wife. She died a month or two later.
Oh my.
So his granddaughter came in and tried to do it. She was like 16 or 17. And the court says no. Number one, she was a female. She was young. Her father was killed in the Civil War.
Oh.
And so they end up auctioning off all of William T. Wilson's stuff. Guess who's standing in the auction? Irvin James.
Irvin James.
I said, wow, this dude. You had to have some tough courage. You're standing at an auction with folks who used to own people look like Irvin James. So but he was a fierce man. He had to be a fierce man.
Strong business mind too.
Right, and so he purchased. It was either one or two red sows. A sow was a hog, if you know, a female hog. And one was, I think it was $20 or $25 he paid for the hog, and a lot of shucks. Shucks, off the corn.
Right.
But you could do different things with shuck. You can use it, can twist it, like the huddle chairs do, or you can take it and stuff bedding with it off the shuck. They did different things with shucks, and some other stuff with shucks. So
right.
but that's what he did. I said, this man this dude was. He was a strong-minded, strong-willed man. And also in 1868, checking the registry, I was like, wait a minute. I said, whoa, who registered and voted? Irvin James. I said, this boy was off the chain.
It's really exciting to see
really
those
is.
documents.
When you see that stuff, you'd be like, oh my God. I mean, I went to sleep that night, I was like riding on, feeling like I was floating in the bed, But it's always good when you find documentation.
That's right.
To show where your ancestors, what they have accomplished in a difficult time in American history.
Yeah.
Reconstruction was one of the successful periods, but it's always also was one of the most difficult because you had those who did not want you to achieve.
That's exactly right.
And they came out and fiercely and attacked and did their damage, tried to discourage you. But Irvin said, I'm not having it. And so he signed he actually purchased the property in 1869. No, 1870s, right. But he actually signed the deed to that, the X, in 71. Because, but the thing is, I saw the other deed where they mortgaged him the land.
Okay.
Because he couldn't go to a bank. So
right.
Eli McKissick and Mary Poston mortgaged him the land. He put $400 down on it. By the end of that next year, he had $300. He paid it off.
He paid it off.
That was 71, but Irvin, 72. But Irvin died in 72. No, 71, but he died in 72. So I'm searching to see what happened to Irvin. Did he die of natural causes or did he have some assistance in his death?
Oh, my.
We don't know. So I'm still looking for the documents. That's why I also have genealogical workshops. Sometimes
that's right.
You stumble across things sometimes. You put it down, you get burnt out, you get to a brick wall, you just say, okay, I'm take a break from this stuff.
Of course.
Because it can't consume you. That research can really have you hooked you up 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning.
I know.
Trying to find stuff. So.
I totally understand. I understand because I love history and research as well. You mentioned genealogy.
Yes.
You mentioned that. Tell our viewers, let them know about the importance of genealogy and the different workshops that you've done previously.
To me, that's one of the most important things, especially when you have kids, children.
Oh, yes.
Especially boy children. I'm not saying girls can't, but especially boy children. Because they're rambunctious, they want to know, and sometimes the male figure's not there. And so to help them to understand who they are, genealogy can help do that through research and find out who your father is, who your mother's father is, who your grandfather is, and on and on. Once they start doing that, connecting the dots,
right.
Especially if you got pictures too, and seeing what accomplishment they have done, it helps them to develop. Saying, hey, I'm somebody. Like Jesse would say, I am somebody.
Yes.
So it helps them as well. But genealogy and workshops, man, it is so important. And we've helped so many people over the years when we've done these things. And actually, a few years ago, we had one at Francis Marion University.
That's right.
We partnered them on a lot of things as well. They would, he was working at Archivist at that time, excuse me, Steve Tuttle. Dr. Steve Tuttle. He's probably been at archives 40 years, 37, 40 years, and he knows his stuff. So he brought a document. He just picked up some local documents. He ran some looking around, and lo and behold, one of the women that was in the audience, when he said, I got these documents, and he called her name. She said, wait a minute, let me see that. It was actually one of her ancestors.
What?
So that's the kind of, sometimes we get excited about that. But it's a lot, you can do last will and testaments, do estates. When they wrote out how many enslaved people they had,
right,
who they belonged to. And I guess the thing that was kind of depressing, hurtful one time when I learned that even if you got a 13-year-old child there, and they said, when this child has a baby, it goes to my daughter so-and-so. I said, oh, God, that's tough. Before you even have the child, it's already been given away, So I was like, wow, yeah. So that was
I'm having trouble hearing you.
Yeah.
You hear my iPad is talking, so I was trying to quiet the ping pings on it. But go on, Terry, I am so sorry.
But that's okay. But, when you see that right there, when you see that your child is not really your child.
That's right.
Because it's chattel slavery.
Yeah.
When you were born into slavery, you were enslaved because you were born, you were born enslaved. And you couldn't get out of it. So it's called chattel slavery. So, but the thing is, the unique part, you check farm records, you check, the old agricultural records, the census. So when you can't find it past 1870, yes, you can. There's a lot of ways you can find stuff. And like they had a physician over in Society Hill, and I cannot remember his name, and that's where most of the enslaved people were taken to Society Hill if they had an illness. Mm-hmm. And so one of my descendants were over in Society Hill getting sick, and I think he had something wrong with his stomach. So once you start doing genealogical work, you find out also that one of Irvin's sons partnered with three other people in Darlington County and started the Mutual Colored Life Insurance Association.
Oh.
Yes, that was Eli James. One of Irvin's sons went over there and did that, but he also did it with a couple of Benjamins.
Really?
Yes. I saw their names there. There's some other names I can't remember right now. But genealogy and workshops, we try to help you find who you are. Mm-hmm. And it's connecting that, it helps you to be a whole person.
That's right.
If you find out, I didn't know that was my cousin. And we're kin to some folks that I had no clue up until a few years ago that actually Representative Terry Alexander and I are closer cousin, we thought. And so his great-grandmother, Miss Mary James Alexander, and my great-grandfather, Reverend Henry James, were brothers and sisters.
Oh, my.
So I was like, whoa. So, you find out those kind of things. It makes you excited.
Yeah,
tying the families together. Even on my grandfather's mother, her mother was from Marion. Mm-hmm. She was a Grant. She was the only one was a Grant, but her mother ended up marrying a Stevenson, so they tie in. And then you got the Peas, they tie in. Oh. You got the Browns, they tie in. So it's oh God. He's like,
we are having something with these telephones today, aren't we? Yeah. Yes. But when you said the Peas, that's you're hitting on. Well, my daughter-in-law is a P.
Okay, yeah, from Range and Centenary and all that area down there. Yeah. Once you start doing that, you start like, wow, the Fords, they were in the family.
Oh wow. The Fords out of are they out of Mars Bluff?
Mars Bluff, more so out of Dillon area.
Okay.
Well, Marion, but used to before it came Dillon, they were Marion area.
Yeah.
And the Alexander was Townsend Alexander was her husband, and so that's how she became Alexander. But the names, once you start getting them in there, and actually there's a name called what was it? Ori. But it's O-R-R. Some spelled a little bit different.
Right.
But there was a Ori who was the first black hockey player from South Carolina. So I'm thinking that's a strange name. So we might be tying in. But he ended up living in Canada, I believe.
Okay.
So it's crazy how these names and these people tie into your
Tie
family.
into your family.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right.
And so
that's
why
right.
we do the workshops to basically get people educated and get them to research their families and build a book for their kids, so kids will know you won't be marrying your cousin sometimes. And those things, people are like, oh man, you marry your cousin. And I tell them all the time, I said, you got to understand the climate of the time period.
Yeah.
You cousins end up marrying cousins. You're from the same community like Savannah Grove. Cousins, they used to say, well, third cousin don't matter. Third cousin don't matter. But it does matter.
It does.
But these kind of things happen in the communities. I had cousins in Jamestown who married each other and knew it, but it's what happens. And you can't erase history.
No.
It is what it is. If you know better, you do better. But, back then,
If you don't know, you don't know.
You don't know. So, anytime you hear certain names and remember the old folks, you say, who your people?
Right.
Oh, boy, you can't come here. I'm your family, Be like, golly. But yeah, that kind of stuff. It happens. It happens. But yeah, genealogy is very important. And I spoke with a lot of young people, and they'll say, "Well, my dad, he ain't no good." Wait a minute. I said, "Well, wait a minute now. If he's no good, then part of you no good. So be careful what you say."
Be careful what you say.
I said, you can't. You do your part. You can't do their part. They have to live their life. And so we help a lot of people, and I get helped a lot. From my friends who are all over the world. I mean, seriously, New York. I just called my friend yesterday from Delaware. She was in Jersey, now she's in Delaware. So we still talk about genealogy.
Right.
Workshops and what's going on with OG. I think it's a big genealogy workshop called OG.
Really?
I've never been. Don't know that much about it, but I've heard a lot about it. Sometimes they go out to Utah and different places like that. I won't say I can't travel. I don't travel that far. Because I have to work, and they do too. But it's cost and all that. But it's a lot of help with your local, with the public libraries here in Florence, with Darlington. Brother Brian Gandy is awesome, man. He's
at
awesome
the Darlington
guy.
County.
Yeah, he's over the Darlington County Historical Society and the museum there. He's good.
I've been there before. That's a great place.
The state archaeological,
That's right.
The research there, the South Carolina Library. There's a lot of resources out there if you want to learn. You can go on YouTube University and type in some stuff. It'll help you in the research. Get behind that brick wall.
You can even go to our library here and find some stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's great. That's great. Now, there's some software, because everybody talks about Ancestry.com, but what are some of the there's some other software as well, right, that can be utilized?
23andMe.
Okay.
You got African Ancestry.
Yes.
There's several out there. I don't know all of them.
Right.
And you can get with these guys they call themselves geneticists. And what they'll do, once you get your DNA, they'll break it down for you.
Okay.
They'll help break it down to you. There was a gentleman up in Maryland area by the name of Shannon Christmas. He's awesome. He's awesome with that. But there's others out there, but he's just the one that we've had at our workshops.
Okay.
And Miss Robin, she's awesome. She's now in North Carolina, but she's awesome too, Miss Robin.
Well, we'll be delighted whenever you do another one here in our area. I know the last one you had was at Francis Marion University.
We're working on actually putting one together now with some other things. We're going to add some stuff to it to make it more exciting, more broader than just genealogical workshop.
Right.
We're working on some things.
Right.
And hopefully within the next month or two, we'll have it and put the word out so people want to come. We're looking to bring some real heavy folks in to come and help us to help people break through.
Well, we look forward to that. I know I look forward to it, and I have had some discussions with some of my friends and some other people as well who, like with their family reunions and what have you, that were extremely interested in that. So the quicker you have it, the better.
We'll get
the better, because I too have discovered relatives right here in the church that I didn't know.
No,
That,
right.
you know, and that was through Ancestry.com with the DNA.
Yeah, they'll hook you up now.
Yeah, it'll hook you up. It will, because there were some missing links.
Yes.
There were some missing links, and so we still have to research to find out where that missing link,
Right.
where to attach it. But the DNA did help us
Match
to
up.
discover that we were related.
And one of the things, I know a lot about my father's side of the family, but I didn't know much about my mother's side. But I got a few names from one of my cousins, Miss Yvette James McNeil. And she gave me 2 names or 3 names. And when I started researching them, I already had it. I already had the names already.
Right.
Didn't know what I was looking at. And so I gave them to a friend of mine, Miss Robin. And Robin told me, Robin Foster, and she said, Terry, you got it already here. I said, what? She said, you got it right here. And so she told me, so I locked them into Ancestry, and man, I got, her family is like growing. Come to find out, my second great grandmother was actually an enslaved person on the Gregg Plantation. Yes, she was an enslaved person on the Gregg Plantation, which is where Francis Marion sits. And understand now, Francis Marion had nothing to do with slavery itself.
Right.
That was the land owners of that place.
That's right.
Yeah, and they're doing an awesome job as well, because they got the group USS, University Studying Slavery, and they're doing a lot of great things as well.
Okay.
Miss Erica Johnson and those guys are doing an awesome job as well.
So the cabins,
Yeah, there was a Wallace Gregg Plantation.
Okay.
From what I understand. I don't know that much, but I know enough to know that those cabins were part of the Gregg Plantation. And you know, the school across
That's
the road
right.
is called
Wallace Gregg.
Wallace. We always call it Wallace Gregg, but it's actually Wallace and Gregg.
Wallace A. Gregg.
Wallace and Gregg.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We always say Wallace Gregg, but it's actually Wallace and Gregg School. Yeah.
You have taught us a new.
Oh yeah.
We get a lesson today. Well, now look, I just want to switch up a little bit because Terry, you also work with voters registration.
Yes. Oh Lord.
And it's that time of the year, and see, I'm looking at the questions I want to ask. And Siri, stop talking, Siri.
She's making this job hard.
I mean, but she is.
Clip.
But oh, Cash is looking at me really funny, giving me the side eye, everyone. But yeah, let's talk about voter registration and about the validation, because we keep hearing different things about your ID and all of that. Right. So how about educate us on that?
I'll do the best I can with that stuff because it changes daily. We hear stuff daily, but until it becomes law, we don't move on it. If it becomes law, we move on it, and we'll educate the public on that. Some of the things we need to do right now in Florence County, we have about 81,000 plus registered voters. We have about 81,000 plus. We're trying to get at over 100,000.
Okay.
But it takes all of us. And new little piece we're tossing around is registered and ready. Registered and ready. Just not registered, but registered and ready. And so if you have any questions, you can come out of 219 Third Loop Road to the voter registration office, and we will help you whatever you need. Or you can go to SC Votes.
Okay.
scvotes.org and go on their line. You can look at your voter history. You can look at whether if your address change, all that kind of stuff. You can do it online, actually. And we're having more people now coming in and want to do drives and that kind of stuff. So we're just trying to educate people as much as we can. We're asking, and with the churches, if you need us, you call us and you can actually request that we bring the equipment here to your church. And we can actually do a mock election.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, we'll let the state know. The state will send us down the mock election. It won't be names. It might be peanut butter and jelly. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying.
Right.
And so we get people, for me, with the machines, we can do the breakdown on the machines, kind of explain what is a poll book, what is Express Vote, what is the DS300, what is our MiFi, does it hook to the internet? No, it does not. Nothing we do hooks to the internet.
Okay.
And so we have to educate people as much as possible.
That's right.
I don't feel comfortable with this thing. I want a paper ballot. No, you don't. This is the best way because we're being watched. But I tell you, we're being state of South Carolina, and just all over the nation, really, we're being watched. And the more stuff you hear outside, it makes our job more difficult. We have to do more explaining, and we have pamphlets, whatever you need. We're here to help the public understand the process of voting and how important voting is.
That's right.
And I love the history of voting. And I'm telling people, research the history of voting. Don't take my word for it. Do your own research of voting. How it was back in the time period where only white men with land, I'm going to say it again, white men with land could vote. The poor white folks, you ain't got no land, you couldn't vote.
Wow.
Women, you couldn't vote. Black folk, you couldn't vote. You see what I'm saying? But as time changes, when after the Civil War came in, then that's when you saw your whole dynamics change. That's when Alfred Rush got elected, and what's his name? Got elected. I can't remember his name right now. It's eluded me. He's buried in the Mount Zion United Methodist Church Cemetery.
Oh, okay.
The other Reconstruction era representative he was a product from Marion County. But that's when, during that harsh time period when Stephen Swales, who was with the 54th, he was the first black mayor of Kingstree during that time period. And he was with the state, with the South Carolina as a representative as well.
Okay.
But when the Reconstruction, when they pulled back the federal troops, he sent his family away, but he stayed and hid. He would sneak in at night on the train or whatever, and do some work. But he was actually did a marker down there in the 80s through Congressman Clyburn at that time, down in Lake City. But King Street. King Street. So he was the first black mayor down there, Lieutenant Stephen Swales.
Okay.
And, yeah.
Well,
so.
I've seen a picture, a historical picture of the black legislators during that time, and I mean there were a plethora of them.
And the thing people fail to realize is that these guys they call them the radicals, the free radicals. That's what they were called because they were raised so much sand. But a lot of them were preachers, pastors. They were there, and the unique part about it, they would have church before they had their sessions.
Amen.
They would have church, and the largest church in the United States at the time was at the White House. They had church at the White House. At the White House. They would go into session. They would do what they do, and they'd raise sand. They would raise sand. They call them free radicals. So
free radicals.
Anything I'm talking about, just research yourself. I'm not talking about just pulling stuff out the air. But these guys were powerful people. They were not afraid.
That's right. Alfred Rush was a deacon here at Savannah Church.
Yeah. And then you had what you call maroon communities.
Okay.
Maroons were people who ran away from the plantation and ran in the swamp, live in the swamps.
Oh my.
Oh yeah. They'd rather live with the water moccasins and the alligators and the bobcats and all that stuff, but to just show you the brutality of slavery. A lot of times I talk to different audiences, mixed audience, and I'll say this to them: I cannot hold you responsible for what happened in slavery, Reconstruction, Jim Crow. But I said, if your mindset is still set in that period, we need to have a conversation.
Thank you.
And you'll find out what you want for your family. I want for my family. If you want a nice house, I want a nice house. If you want a good job, I want a good job. I just want to be treated fairly. And so most people understand. Some don't. You can't make people understand. But you can let them know I'm not upset with you for what happened in slavery. But once again, if you think that what you're doing is you think you're better than me, you're not. Because if I have a kid and you need a kid and I give you a kid, I'm the best person in the whole wide world. And then we were with another group I'm a part of, which is a slave dwelling project, which is my friend Joe McGill, who's really just from King Street. He lives in Charleston, the Latson community. And we were up in Virginia at Bell Grove Plantation doing a session, and this white guy walked in. We was just ended it, wrapping it up, and we was getting our stuff up. He said, man, I wanted to get here, but they called me into work, I had to work. I said, okay. He said, I had my DNA done. And Joe and I looked at each other. Joe said, what'd you find? He said, I found out my great-grandmother was a black woman. I said, whoa. And he looked just as average white guy. I was like, whoa. And Joe said, how do you feel? He said, I'm looking at this thing differently now. So that's the kind of effect we need to have on people. Make you look at things differently.
Yeah.
Because what you want in life, other people want it too. Our culture may be different, but the way we want to live, people want to live. Most people want to live in a peaceful life. Raise their kids, raise their families, do what they do, But some people, it's going to be who they are. Nothing you can do about that. Another group, I was just at a session, another group was there called Coming to the Table. And where you had the descendants of the enslaved and the descendants of enslavers sitting across the table having a conversation. And I was up in Virginia. I can't remember exactly where I was. And this white guy is about 6'3", 6'2", 6'3", is tall. He was slim. And so he introduced himself. He said, "Terry." I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "I was a racist." I said, I kind of caught me off guard. I said, "Whoa." He said, "I was a racist." He said, "I was a racist, didn't realize I was a racist." And so God is taking me now to help other white men see that they can be racist or racist. I said, "Whoa." He said, "What changed his heart?" He said his daughter went off to school and she met this black guy. He denounced her. He said, "I don't want anything to do with you. You got these guys. Don't bring it to my blah, blah, blah." So anyway, his daughter ended up married. They ended up getting married and had a little baby. He said they brought the baby to see him.
And
he said that baby looked just like me. He told me, he said, "Terry," he said, "I didn't do it when they left." He said, "But when they left," he said, "I bawled up in the middle of my floor in my living room." He said, "I cried for about 30, 40 minutes. I just bawled." He said, "I cried. I was balled up like a baby on the floor." He said, "I just cried and I cried and cried." He said, "After that, I apologized to my daughter, to her husband, my son-in-law." He said, "That was a changed man for me." He said, "I was going to church and I was doing all that stuff." So, wow, man. So you meet people like that. You meet people like that.
God has a way.
It does, and that's what it's all about. I tell people all the time, I ain't mad with you about nothing. That's the past. But if you're trying to bring that, you're trying to force that past forward, and I'm gonna give you some resistance. No,
Oh yeah, right.
We can't do that now.
Rightly so.
We all, and I tell people this even when I'm boating, we in this boat called South Carolina. If you shoot holes in one side of the boat, guess what? We all go down together. So don't be fooled by what you see. I said, because, and I use a scenario of this. I say there's 3 dogs, 2 big dogs and a little dog. I said, you got a dog on a big dog on the right, big dog on the left. They going at each other, biting each other's ears, biting each other's tail off, chewing each other's foot. And I said, the little dog looked back, sat back, watch it, get into it real good. The little dog reaches over and grabs the bone and going down the road. I said, you on the left and you on the right, and that little dog is that politician. I said, don't let him fool you. You don't let him fool you. I spoke with people from Tim Scott's office. It doesn't matter to me. I spoke with people from Tim Scott's office, and this gentleman down there, he said, "Terry," he said, "I'm telling you, I've been doing this thing for 30-something years. All of them the same." I said, "Huh?" He said, "All of them the same." He said, "They put that front." He said, "Eat dinner. They go to each other's house on Thanksgiving. They take trips together. Then golfing together." He said, "Listen to me." He said, "I've been here long enough, and I'm an older man now." He said, "I've seen it all." I said, "Wow." But that's what I tell people: use common sense. Use common sense. I don't care if you're, just use if you're a Democrat or Republican. If you were voted in my district, you still represent me.
Yeah,
I'm gonna call you up if I need something.
That's right.
It doesn't matter to me. It don't matter to me. Well, I'm a Democrat. I don't care. I'm a Republican. I don't care.
Yeah.
Are you doing what the job calls for? Are you doing what the responsibility calls for? That's what I care about. Are you helping the people? Are you helping yourself? If you help yourself and the people, hey, I ain't got to do with that, but just help the people. Don't throw us nothing, a bunch of crap, fluff. Yeah, but you ain't doing nothing, But that's life,
Such is life.
Yes,
Such is
yes,
life.
yes,
and
yes.
there's so many conversations, different conversations about that. I heard some conversations on earlier this week, and it's just like what came in my spirit a while ago, Sunday. This past Sunday was Easter.
Yes.
And there was a song we sang, "It doesn't matter what color you are.
That's it.
As long as the blood is what?
Red.
Red."
That's it. That's it.
Was red. One more question, and because I know that we have, like I said, we can always get together and have great conversation. Purge, the purge list. Okay, some people have are listed on the purge list, or they have been purged off of the list. So how does that, tell us how is it that you get purged off of the list, and how can you check if you have
Well, that's a news. We don't purge anyone.
That's a
We don't
rumor.
purge. Yeah. Well, what it is, media talk, purge. You might hear a politician say purge them from the list. We don't purge anybody.
Okay.
You become active or inactive.
Okay.
If you don't vote, I think it's twice in 2 years, then we put you on an inactive list. But if you go to the polls, if you want to vote, only thing you do is they make a phone call to the office, and they got this thing called Connect. Look and connect. Okay, boom, boom, boom. It takes 3 to 5 minutes or less. They put you and you can go vote.
Really?
Yes.
That very day?
Just very same day at that very same time. It's no such thing as purge. You don't purge anybody for this.
So
We don't fix nothing. We don't purge nobody.
Again,
Yeah.
it just has you thinking, messing with your mind.
Yeah. It's a trick of the devil. People. It don't matter. Yes, it does. Go to scvotes.org. Check your voting status. You can do that from your home. If you're elderly, you don't have a computer, have your grandkids, your kids, neighbors' kids to check it out for you. Go in there and check everything, because it is up there. And like I said, they got people in Colombia. That's what their job is,
Right.
to make sure everything is straight, and make sure your vote counts.
That's right.
Because it does count, and it does matter. The other thing is, if you're a young person, 17 years old, and you're going to be 18 by election day, November 2nd, you can actually register now.
Okay.
You can actually register now, and you can actually vote now. You can vote in the primary.
Okay.
You can vote in the primary. A lot of people don't know that. The other thing is, if you're in jail or in prison, or in jail, I should say, and you haven't been convicted of a crime, you can still vote. You have to request an absentee ballot, or you can still vote. They ain't gonna let you out now.
But you can vote.
You can vote. You have to request an absentee ballot and vote. So we're partnering with a lot of different groups in the PD area now, so they can help us get these people registered.
Great. That's great. Yeah. That's good information.
Yes.
Because definitely we have been led astray with the.
Well, I'm gonna say, it's a lot of things out there that people don't know. Like I said, I tell people, let the voter registration officer state tell you no. Don't you tell yourself no. Go sign up. If you say, well, if you already, another thing with the guys who've been behind the wall in jail, if you have served your time and you're not on probation,
Right, you can vote.
you can vote. Only thing you can't vote if you committed a crime against the elections.
Okay.
Certain crimes they're not going to allow you to vote, and that's one of them.
Okay.
Yeah, but we have pamphlets, we have things you can call there. If we don't know the answer, we have field reps, we have area people we can call on and get the answer like this, But so it's no excuse. There's no excuse. We need to get up and do better.
Right.
If you want things to change, you got to make them change. They're not going to change by themselves. We have to get engaged. I'm praying that our religious leaders across the board, black, white, United Methodist, I don't care what you are, speak the truth and say, hey, I can't tell you how to vote. Get out, register, and be ready for election day. Don't wait until the day, because it happened in 2020. This young man came up, hey, I want to vote. It's about time for the polls to close. I said, are you registered? No.
Uh-oh.
I was like, well, you can register, but you won't be able to vote in this election. Oh, okay. Jumped back his truck and went off.
Oh.
So I don't know. People not understanding, and we're trying to actually educate people. What does a city councilman do? What is a responsibility? What is a county council responsibility? What is your representative? What is your senate? On and on and on. It's simple now on your phone. Google it. You can. It's no excuse now. You got all this technology. Use it for the good reason, to get educated and do what you're supposed to do as a citizen. And my thing is, if you don't vote, don't complain. Shut your mouth and take the pain, because they're coming. They're coming. The pain's gonna come. These things you ain't gonna like. If you got a representative there, call them and say, hey man, what's going on here? Why is this? That's it. Talk to them. You hire them to represent you. You elected or appointed them to represent you. So you have a right to ask them questions.
And I've always wondered, what rolls through my head is what will motivate those who say, "Well, it doesn't matter. My vote doesn't count anyway." What does it take to motivate them, to help them to understand that your vote does count? And
well, motivation is hard times.
I was thinking
Difficult, hard times.
right now with the way things are.
It's hard times. Or either if you think it's easy, go to YouTube or any social media and just type in voting rights, civil rights movement, type in women's suffrage, just type in those things. And you will see, whoa, wait a minute. The folk look just like me. Females look just like me. Poor people look just like me. See, they'll understand one day it's the have and have-nots.
Oh, yeah.
You have it or you don't have it. You don't have it, and you belong with me. I don't care what color you are.
Yeah.
You're in the poor class.
And the Googling, like you said, Google, and then, research. And then some of us have to research for others in order to show them exactly what took place or what has happened and why it is that you need to vote. Even to the point where I showed it to my boys, the Willie Litch letter.
Oh, yeah.
I showed that, and they were like, huh? And there's on the internet, there's a modern version of it that talks about how it affects you in this day and age.
Yeah. The thing is, we have to also get the kids to reenact some of those events through history.
Yeah.
Once you get the kids involved and they start growing up in that stuff, they'll understand that your power is in your vote. The reason you don't have anything in your community is you don't vote. And be honest with you, elected officials look at that. You might go to a precinct and they might have 1,800 people. On election day, you might have only 100 to 200 people vote.
And that's a problem.
Yeah, they looking at you like, they don't need nothing over there. They don't even vote. And so, you can say what you want to say. Everything that we do is affected by the vote. Sometimes our judges are appointed by those who we elect.
Yes.
People over different organizations are appointed by people we elect. So we got to understand your vote is power. That's the only day that you're on the same page as Oprah and Bill Gates and all those big time folk. That's the only day they get one vote. With their billions, the only thing they got is influence, but they got one vote.
Right.
One vote. They go to cast that ballot. Hopefully we'll do better. We're trying to encourage the people, and we're working with groups like we've spoken with Brother Marcus Simmons, Minister Marcus Simmons, about My Brother's Keeper.
My Brother's Keeper,
for those people who we look at and say, okay, they don't count, but they do count.
Yes, they do.
So we want to partner with him. We've spoken with him once. We got to get back with him, and to get those people who may not have a home, they still can vote, because any governmental building you can use as an address. You can use the voter registration office, use churches.
Really?
Yes, you can use a lot of things for just sign it and your mail come there. If it's DSS, you can go there, Anything that, any government business, a building, you can use it as an address, so just let them know. Yeah.
I tell you, you are educating us today. You really are. This has been great, really great. Like I said, we always have a great conversation, so we appreciate you ever so much.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for having me.
Stopping by, and come again, definitely, we can talk some more.
Oh, yeah. We got a lot of stuff coming out of the pipe, so.
Yes, especially when you get your genealogy dates together and Jamestown and everything. Yeah. All right. Thank you again. Right. And thank you all ever so much to our viewers for watching Native Drums. We'll be back next week with more to educate you, to be informative, and even sometimes we may be entertaining you. So you have a great Sunday evening. This is Josiah Williams with Native Drums.